Hi, this is Eric from Longbox Review at longboxreview.wordpress.com. And tonight, after a very long day of working out in the yard and doing some other things, I finally get to sit down and talk to you about the latest previews catalog. If you've been following the podcast feed for a while now, you've noticed that I put out several previews episodes, but I haven't done every previews that's come out since I've started doing the podcast, and that's because not every previews catalog is really exciting. Not a lot of stuff that's coming out that really excites me or contains anything that is really that interesting. But this time, the August catalog, there's a lot of stuff in here that actually has me excited about what's coming out in the next few months. So I'll be talking about some of those things. So I'll start off with Dark Horse as I usually do. And then first up is Ghost #1. I started getting the Dark Horse Presents starting with number 13 because I saw that they were bringing the Ghost character back. And this is interesting because Ghost is a character and series that I knew of, but I had never read anything at all. And so when I saw number 13 they were bringing Ghost back, I decided to pick up Dark Horse Presents and read that story, and of course read everything else in that book. And then not shortly after that, they announced that Ghost #0 was coming out, and I'm pretty sure that whatever they're putting into Dark Horse Presents is probably going to be that #0 issue, but that's okay. Anyway, here they are with the mini-series with Ghost #1. This is by Kelly Sue DeConnick doing the writing and Phil Noto doing the art. Which is the same team, I believe, that's doing the Dark Horse Presents story. And I'm going to grab my issue here and check real quick. And that would be correct. And then on the next page of the catalog, here's the Ghost Omnibus Volume 3. So if I wanted to get a bunch of different old Ghost stories, I could pick that up. That's for $25. Now this is a title from Dark Horse that I don't know that I'll pick up, but I just absolutely love the title of this. This is a mini-series from Eric Powell and Kyle Holtz? Tracy Marsh and Daniel Brown. Anyway, this is called Billy the Kid's Old-Timey Oddities and the Orm of Loch Ness. The world believes the notorious outlaw Billy the Kid was killed by Pat Garrett, but the Kid is very much alive, the hired gun of a traveling spectacle of biological curiosities, or quote-unquote freaks, as Billy calls them. Billy and crew head to Loch Ness to rescue their lizard-skinned comrade from Count Dracula. Wow, just throwing in a bunch of different things from across literature there and history. Like I said, I probably won't be getting that, but I absolutely love that title. Here's yet another miniseries whose premise I find somewhat interesting. It's called Exsanguine. This is 1 of 5 by Tim Seeley and Josh Emmons. One's a natural-born killer, a remorseless hunter restlessly prowling the night for victims to quench an unnatural bloodlust. The other's a vampire. A bored vampire. His centuries of existence have left him world-weary and detached until one day his thirst is reinvigorated when the deadly and intricate work of the sanguine killer catches his eyes. Interesting premise. I don't know that I'll get it, though. Moving on to Buffy the Vampire Slayer Season 9. This is issue 14. So I just want to point this out because it says, first issue in a 2-part arc. I don't know. What is an arc? Does 2 issues really constitute an arc? In my mind, it doesn't. But I guess if a story is more than a done in one, then it's an arc. I don't know. And then in Angel and Faith number 15, going hand in hand or arm in arm or however you want to say it with Buffy, this is a special standalone issue. So it's interesting to me because everything is so story arc, going back to that, related, especially in the Buffy and Angel series, that they have to actually point out that this one issue, number 15, is a done-in-one story. Here's Matt Wagner's Grendel Omnibus, Volume 2. Man, I really want to get that. And the first volume. I haven't ordered it. I want to get that at some point, but I want to read those old Grendel stories. Moving on to DC, Justice League number 13. So the first issue after the 0 month. Written by Geoff Johns still, but art and cover by Tony Daniel and Richard Friend. So it's too bad that Jim Lee isn't on this book. I don't know if he's off the book in general, or if this is just one of those times where Jim Lee needed a break and somebody came in. We'll see how Tony Daniel does on anyone but Batman here. But this image in previews is not looking all that great. Not bad, but not great. I mean, it's not Jim Lee, in other words. DC Universe Presents number 13. This is the, the text here says, the New 52 debut of Black Lightning and Blue Devil. Black Lightning was never a character that I was particularly interested in, although I did enjoy the character in the Justice League of America run that Brad Meltzer did a few years back. And Blue Devil was always lots of fun. I got that series for several issues back when it came out, so we'll see how the Blue Devil is portrayed here. Although this image makes him look more demon-y as opposed to the I'll say classic origin of the guy who got trapped in a demon-looking suit. World's Finest number 5. Interesting only in the bullet points, I should say. The secrets of Power Girl's abilities revealed. Isn't that already established? She's a Kryptonian from Earth 2. What other secret is there? However, this issue features artwork by the legendary Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, which is awesome. But it looks like he may be inked by Jerry Ordway, which is not my favorite inker, but we'll see how it looks. So a lot of these, as you can tell, I'm just kind of riffing on the solicitation text. And this is one of those, Superman number 13. It says it's a death trap for Superman as he matches wits with his greatest enemy for the final time as the Man of Steel loses it. And so, of course, I go back to the old trope of Superman. His greatest enemy, well, that's Luthor, right? But is that who that is? Or is it the Brainiac that we've been introduced to? And it's for the final time? That's really odd text for this. So I am really curious. I am getting Superman, although it's not been the best Superman title. Action Comics has been that. But I keep hoping that it gets better. Talon number 1 is being solicited here. So the only thing I have to say about this was I read for the Bat books that I was getting. I did read that Court of Owls storyline and enjoyed it for the most part. But this character of Talon, whose real name is Calvin Rose, was he even in that storyline at all, or was he mentioned at all? I don't recall this. Speaking of Batman, here's number 13. This is Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo doing their fantastic work that they've been doing since issue 1. The Joker returns in the Batman title by these two creators. I can't wait to read this storyline. And in Detective Comics, we get a new story by writer John Layman of Chew fame, and it guest stars Nightwing. Now, I read the first couple volumes of Chew, and it was interesting, but it wasn't all that great to me. I did not pick up any more of the series, although I've heard from other people about how great it is. But it just didn't grab me. But anything that has Nightwing in it, instantly has my eye, and so I actually may pick up this title, even though I'm not all that interested in the stories in Detective Comics since it's been relaunched. Batgirl 13, we get Ed Benes coming back to the character, so that's nice. I'll look forward to that. I actually enjoy his work for the most part. And in Batwoman number 13, you get Batwoman and Wonder Woman teaming up. And it's so awesome that they had to include it twice in the bullet points. And I mentioned this next one, Red Hood and the Outlaws, the 13th issue, only because the cover image does remind me of my very first New Teen Titans issue from back in the early 80s, where Blackfire is holding her sister Starfire hostage, or prisoner I should say. It's kind of the same in this cover image, I assume. kind of hard to tell them apart in here, other than one is darker, has a darker outfit than the other. But this is not a title that I read, so I'm not sure what's going on there. Here is Phantom Stranger #1, the new series written by Dan DiDio, with art by Brent Anderson and Scott Hanna. It's an all-new series, it says, focusing on secrets of the New 52 you never imagined. I hate it when they go into hyperbole like that, but there it is. Interesting though, Phantom Stranger strikes a bargain with Lord Trigon that will have serious repercussions in the DC universe, and Pandora watches. Trigon. So this must be, I'm guessing, the first time that we have seen Trigon in this new universe? Perhaps? Maybe? I am looking forward to this, the Sword of Sorcery #1. This is the book in which Amethyst returns, and then we also get a backup story featuring the character Beowulf. Again, part of the new #1s coming out from DC, Team 7. That's a book I never read back when it was first out, and I'm not sure. I don't know. This doesn't quite interest me, but I'll pick up the first few issues, I'm sure, since it does chronicle the early adventures of Deathstroke, Black Canary, Grifter, Amanda Waller, Steve Trevor, and others. And it's written by Justin Jordan, whose work I'm not familiar with, but the art is by Jesus Marino. And GI Combat, this is issue #5. I get the promised haunted tank story. Now, I was going to drop this comic, but then I saw that they were going to start the haunted tank story, and that's the whole reason that I was picking up the comic in the first place, because they talked about how haunted tank was going to be part of this. And so far all we've gotten is the Unknown Soldier and the War That Time Forgot stories, which have been okay, but I really like the haunted tank, so I'm curious to see what they're going to do with that premise in the New 52 universe. For fans of Joe Kubert, you probably want to pick up Joe Kubert Presents. This is a 6-issue miniseries featuring stories and art by Mr. Kubert. Here we go. Here we get a couple print versions of the digital first stories. One is Legends of the Dark Knight, first time in print for this series, featuring original non-continuity stories featuring the Batman. I'll be picking that up. And then the second one is the Amikami Girls #1 featuring Wonder Woman. Now, I did buy those, the 3 issues, or however that works. They're not, the issues of the digital first stuff are not the same length as your regular comics. But anyway, here they're all collected in this one issue, I assume. But I did enjoy that, actually. Written by Justin Gray and Jimmy Palmiotti, but art by Amanda Connor, and some other folks helping her there. It looks nice. It was a nice read. I enjoyed it, so I'll be picking that up just to have it in print form as well. I don't know that I'll be picking up, because I did read the first couple issues of the Amikami Batgirl, and I see now that they have Duella Dent, and then I believe Power Girl is the 4th one, but I haven't read those yet. The National Comics, I don't know what do you call that? Is that sort of an imprint? It's a weird thing, because everything's under the National Comics banner, but every issue is a #1, but it features a different character. So it's an odd publishing initiative by DC. But odd, not in a bad way. I don't get me wrong. I like this look at characters that we're familiar with, but we're seeing them, more or less for the first time, or in more depth than what we've seen so far. Anyway, this one is Madam X #1. This is interesting only in the sense of, why would they want to print that in an omnibus hardcover edition, but you get the new 52 0 issues from DC Comics, $150, over 1,300 pages. I don't know. I don't understand they did that with the #1's omnibus. I could kind of understand that one, because that's a whole new publishing initiative, and you get all of them out in one nice bound volume. Although I've heard that you open it up and you have a hard time reading the the interior portions of the comic because of the binding method, and that stuff's cut off. So, but the zeros, DC must really think that there's something to these zero issues to put out this massive hardcover. And in the I'm not sure why they're doing this now category, you have a new printing of JLA Earth 2. This is the great story done by Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely. I love that story. I have the trade paperback on my shelf, but why are they printing another version of it at this point? Doesn't that just muddy the water in terms of, the universes? They already have the main DC universe, and they have Earth 2, and I've heard Jim Robinson on the Comic Vine podcast talk a lot about how DC does not want to muddy the waters and have too many duplications of heroes between the two universes, and so then you get this thing, the JLA Earth 2, which has Earth 2 in the title, even though it's the Roman numeral 2 instead of the number 2. But so you get different versions of the characters that we are familiar with in the new universe on something that is referred to as Earth 2, but is not the same Earth 2 as what Jim Robinson is writing. So that's just all weird to me why they're doing that. But it's still good to see that it's in print. It's a great story. If you haven't read it, you should. And since I talked about this along with the wonderfully great Peter Rios on a previous episode recently, the new Teen Titans Games graphic novel comes out in the trade format. This is for $17. If you're a big fan, and Peter and I talked about this, I think, briefly during that one episode, but if you're a big fan of the new Teen Titans back in their heyday, you should pick this up if you didn't want to get the hardcover. But otherwise, maybe you could skip that one. And since this is the August previews for books that are shipping beginning in October, there's a lot of Halloween themed things being solicited, and here is a terrifying new horror series from Steve Niles and Glenn Fabry called Lot 13. But it is a miniseries. It's issue 1 of 5. A family making a cross-country move makes a horrifying discovery in an old apartment complex. Can they survive the night? I think I'm going to pick that one up. And continuing with the Halloween theme, you get a one-shot Ghosts #1. It's an all-new anthology from some of the biggest talents in the industry, including Jeff Johns, Joe Kubert, Gilbert Hernandez, Paul Pope. Ooh, I like that. And some other folks. Gilbert Hernandez doing some art. Phil Jimenez. Ooh, even better. Joe Kubert, Jeff Lemire, and Amy Reeder, along with some other folks. This is $8. Yeah, I'll be getting that. And over to Ferris. This is number 8. I think this is the first issue of the new creative team. So when Ferris was launched, that we were told, it was going to have stories told by different creators other than Bill Willingham and whoever is doing the art right now on the series. This is written by Lauren, I believe it's pronounced Bukes. I'm sure that's wrong. With art by Inaki Miranda. But still Adam Hughes covers. So I've been really enjoying that series so far. I think I've read through issue 3, I think. I want to say 3 or 4, but I don't even know if 4 is out yet. Anyway, I've enjoyed it. The Phil Jimenez art has been great. I'm enjoying the story, so I'm looking forward to seeing what comes next from the different creators. In the original graphic novel department, we get the trade version of A Flight of Angels. Now, I wanted to get that back when the hardcover came out, but I never did get it, so I might be ordering this trade. Angels are something that have long fascinated me. Angels in literature, I mean. So I'll want to take a look at that. And finally, from DC, the final issue of the new Dead Dwardians comes out in October, appropriately enough on Halloween. This has been a great series. If you haven't been reading this, that's too bad, because it's been a wonderful read from issue 1. So if you haven't picked it up, you don't want to pick up the individual issues, or you can't find them now, definitely get the trade when that comes out. Let's see, there's only 3 things from IDW that caught my attention, and the first of those is this. the Star Trek Newspaper Strips Volume 1 hardcover. And when I read that, I'm like, what? I had no idea that there were any newspaper strips featuring Star Trek. And apparently there were. It says, presenting the rare newspaper strip from the late 70s and early 80s that Star Trek fans have eagerly awaited. Yes, I have, even though I didn't know it until just now. If that ever comes out in a trade version, I will pick that up. $50 for a hardcover is probably just a little too much for newspaper strips. So some time ago in one of the previews episodes, I talked about the artist edition featuring John Romita's Amazing Spider-Man work. This time, in this previous catalog, Gil Kane's artist edition is being solicited, and just like the John Romita one, I want this one too. I think I need to tell my wife about these two books for Christmas time. And then finally, from IDW, I just wanted to mention the Womanthology Space number 2 is going to be coming out. I ordered the number 1 issue. Actually, for some reason, I thought that it wouldn't come out monthly, but apparently it is. But I'm looking forward to reading that. Moving on to Image Comics. Boy, they start off with a bang here. Cyberforce number 1. Now, this is, again, Cyberforce is not something that I had read before, but they're relaunching this. But the really cool thing about this, okay, so let me back up for a second. Normally I would not be interested in this. I wouldn't even basically give it any consideration, other than 1, it's from Image, and 2, it's free. In fact, not only is this issue free, but the first 5 issues of Cyberforce will be offered free because of the fantastic response from the Kickstarter project involving this. So, I'll be getting that, and maybe being pleasantly surprised and continue with the series. We'll see. Something that is definitely catching my eye, but I'm not quite sure if I want to order it. This is Bedlam by Nick Spencer, with art by Riley Rosmo and Fraser Irving covers. So right there, I love Fraser Irving's stuff, but Nick Spencer has never been one that has kind of caught fire with me. So, but the premise, I'm really intrigued by this. So, this is what it says. Fillmore Press was once Matter Red, which I think that's just a cool name. A homicidal maniac and criminal overlord who terrorized the town of Bedlam for years. Then he got better. This is what happens next. So that right there just really intrigues me. And then they have some preview pages here, which are not bad and somewhat disturbing. Very striking because most of it is, it looks like gray tones with red being the primary splash of color here, which is very effective for what they're showing. In the What the Heck department is the miniseries MacGyver Fugitive Gauntlet, featuring the character MacGyver from the TV show. I won't be getting this, but MacGyver. Again, in the category of titles that catch my eye, but I probably won't be picking up. This is Non-Humans, number 1 by Glenn Brunswick, and wow, I'm not sure how to pronounce the artist's name. Wilche Portacio. The text reads, Los Angeles 2041. It's 26 years after a NASA probe brought back a strange disease causing many of our familiar toy-like objects to come to life. You see, that's right there. It's like, no, thank you. This is a new world order where cute and fearsome creatures fight for their right to exist in a world that fears them. Blade Runner meets Toy Story. Is this a failed movie premise? Point of Impact miniseries, number 1 of 4 by Jay Faerber and Corey Coronel. Looks like, yeah, it's black and white, but it looks interesting. I think I might pick that one up too. It's a four-part, let's try that again, a 4-part crime series that begins with one woman's murder and branches out to follow the investigation by 3 people with personal connections to her. And it says her death will change all of their lives. So yeah, I'm going to pick that up, I think. Also picking up I Will Be, as I talk like Yoda, the comic book Legal Defense Fund Liberty Annual 2012. Get 48 pages for $5. And it's a benefit book, so I've been getting the benefit books for the last couple years, so I will continue to buy that. Doesn't matter who's doing what or what's in it, I'm just going to get it. I mentioned before with DC a bunch of the Halloween theme books, and Image has one of their own. I'll probably be getting that as well because I love Halloween. But the preview images look good. This is Halloween Eve. It's a one-shot. This is written by Brandon Monclair and art by Amy Reeder. Looks pretty nice. I mentioned before the re-release or the new edition of Cyberforce, and in case you wanted to go back to the beginning, as it says here, their Image is releasing Cyberforce Origins Volume 1 trade paperback, so you can read all about how Cyberforce began. Ooh, here's a great trade. If you haven't been reading this series, I don't understand why not. But if you were on the fence or you got in late and you don't want to pick up, or you can't pick up the issues because they're probably sold out, you can now get Saga in trade, and I suggest you go get that. Go buy it right now. Well, order it right now. Creator-owned Heroes number 5, all new stories. I just wanted to mention that. I've been reading that from issue 1. I've enjoyed both stories so far. I like all the interviews and extra things they throw in there. It's a great little comic magazine, so you should pick that up. All right, I'm going to move on to Marvel. And the very first thing here, page 1, Marvel Now, point 1, number 1. I remember when they solicited the Marvel point 1 comic, and I got that just to kind of see, where the Marvel Comics was going at that time. Was that about a year ago? I don't remember now. And it was interesting to see where the possible directions of Marvel was in that comic, although I don't think a lot of that stuff has come to fruition. So we'll see. I'm probably going to pick this Marvel Now point 1 just to kind of get a sense of what's coming overall. But there you go. And then the next page basically is the first of the new Marvel Now series, Uncanny Avengers. And then here's another one, A+X number 1. This is written by Jeff Loeb and Warren Ellis. Warren Ellis? That's, okay. That's interesting. It says spinning directly out of AVX. This book you get 2 stories every month. But what's really interesting is on the page previous to that, here are some variant covers to Uncanny Avengers and A+X by Scotty Young, and they're just adorable. Let's see. So I mentioned Scotty Young just a moment ago, and I remember when I was flipping through this previous catalog the first time, I saw those 2 variant covers, and I'm like, ooh, that'd be kind of cool to have, some sort of Scotty Young issue or series, right, featuring those cute little images. And guess what? I turned the page, and there it is: A babies versus X babies. However, it's written by Scotty Young with covers by Scotty Young, but the art is by here we go with the pronunciation, Guruhiru. So I don't know what that artist's style is, but I can't. I'm sure it's similar to this cover. Otherwise, why have the Scotty Young babies? Anyway, I'm getting off track here, but I'm really tempted by that, even though Scotty Young's not doing the interior art. So I have no interest in this particular comic or this particular issue, but Red She-Hulk number 58, the image here, I noticed it because, or caught my eye because you have the Red She-Hulk standing there, and in her hand is the cover to the first issue of the Sensational She-Hulk, which features the She-Hulk holding a comic cover in her hand. So you get that self-referential image there. But what's also interesting is that Red She-Hulk is not holding up a comic, but a pad of some sort showing the cover of the digital comic. So I thought that was kind of neat. This is sad. Fantastic Four number 611 and FF23, the final issues of these titles before I assume Fantastic Four will be relaunched. I don't know what's going to happen with FF, but anyway, it says here, Jonathan Hickman's groundbreaking run comes to an end in this climactic issue. That's too bad. I've really enjoyed Hickman's run on Fantastic Four and FF halfway through the series has been pretty good. The next half not so much, but I've enjoyed the stories. And what is this? Daredevil End of Days, number 1 of 8. This is by Brian Michael Bendis and David Mack as the writers, Klaus Janson and Bill Sienkiewicz doing the art. Revealed at last how it ends for the Man Without Fear in the near future. Investigative reporter Ben Urich has one last story to write. What was Matt Murdock's... It says here, what was Matt Murdock's The Final Secret? I think somebody did not edit this very well. I'll be getting that, for sure. Okay, I'll move on to the other publishers in the catalog. Just want to mention, because I love this series and I'm just going to promote it as much as I possibly can, Rachel Rising reaches number 12 in the series. Again, go pick that up. You can get the first trade that's been solicited. So if you're late to the party, you can start there with a trade. Or as I did, go and find the back issues wherever you can. You can order some of them directly from Terry Moore's website, so you could do that. Let's see, Archaea is offering an original graphic novel hardcover, Space 1999 Aftershock and Awe. And I only mention that because I remember when I was a young lad watching reruns of old sci-fi series, and I remember watching Space 1999 and not knowing what the hell I was watching. And I can barely remember now anything about it, but I still remember it sort of fondly. I should probably go back and watch old episodes just to see what the series was about. Fans of George R.R. Martin's Game of Thrones, they came out with a comic book series based on the books. You can get the Volume 1 graphic novel now. I'm just now starting to watch the HBO series. I watched the first couple episodes and I have a couple more to watch in my Netflix queue. I'm enjoying it. It's not as good as I thought it would be, but maybe that's just a casualty of the hype being so much and my expectations being too high. But you can read the comic if you want. I enjoyed this very much when this came out as the 0 issue, and it was dirt cheap. This is the Bleeding Cool magazine. You can get issue number 1. It's going to, I believe, it's going to be a bi-monthly magazine featuring all that is cool about Bleeding Cool. So I'm getting that. The more comic book related publications, the better, I think. Just want to mention for Dynamite Entertainment's The Shadow number 7, that is a new creative team and a new story arc. So if you were on board previously because of Garth Ennis' involvement, he's no longer doing this. It's now being written by Victor Gischler with art by Jack Herbert. I've been enjoying that series so far. I've read the first 3 issues, I think. It's not bad. From Devil's Due Entertainment is the book, the hardcover book, How to Self-Publish Comics, updated. So thought that was interesting. How to self-publish comics. Updated edition with digital publishing, crowdfunding, and more by Josh Blaylock. If you're interested in that kind of thing, there you go. Okay, and in the WTF category from Dynamic Forces, the Watchman Rorschach Toaster. And I will say no more. As I was flipping through, I got to the EC Comics portion, and this immediately caught my eye because of the parody, I guess, of Wicked. This is Tales from the Crypt, Volume 9, Wickeder graphic novel. I'm somewhat tempted to buy that just because I want to see what they have to do, or what they're going to do with the parody of Wicked, which is, if you don't know what that is, it's a new take on the Oz story, where the main character or the protagonist is the Wicked Witch that we see in Wizard of Oz. They made a musical out of it. I've seen it a couple times now. It's great. I love that storyline, so it'd be interesting to see what they do with that. So first, this was a book, and then it was a film, and now it is a trade paperback, Neil Gaiman's Coraline. If you want to read that story in the graphic format, there you go. I have to say, when I actually did read the book, and I saw the movie, I enjoyed that very much, but when I read the book, it kind of creeped me out. And I just want to mention, too, the Artifacts DC Comics statues, the Superman and Green Lantern one they have here, they look really cool, especially the Superman one. I like that a lot. $40 each. If I were into statues, I would probably be getting that. As it is, I just don't have enough room in my office for that kind of stuff. Although I guess I could put some shelves on the wall, or I can mention it to my wife for Christmas time. I mentioned earlier how it's nice to have more comic-related publications, and here is one, back issue number 61. And I mentioned this, and it caught my eye because of the cover and the examination. Issue 61 is going to cover the tabloid and oversized comics of the 70s, with commentary from and art by Neil Adams, Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, Mike Grell, Jack Kirby, Joe Kubert, John Romita Sr., Alex Toth, and more. With an Alex Ross wraparound cover painting, paying homage to Mike Grell's classic Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes Unlimited Collector's Edition cover. So I'm probably going to be picking that up. And I went on the Tomorrow's website, looking to see what else they have. And there's a bunch of these back issues that I'm going to have to order from them because there's a lot of good information there that I want to read about. From Valiant Entertainment, I mentioned this Harbinger number 5 because at the recommendation of one of the podcast listeners, asking Travis and I why we don't talk about the Valiant stuff because neither of us pick it up is the reason. But anyway, I took the challenge and I asked Lee to recommend one of the new Valiant titles, and he suggested Harbinger, and so I went and found issue number 1 and actually enjoyed it quite a lot. So I'm looking for issue number 2 and probably will be ordering Harbinger for the time being. I usually kind of skip over the Zenescope Entertainment stuff, but on the last page of their portion of the catalog, I see the provocative title, which automatically draws my eye there. It's Wait the F Up, issue number 1 by Bill Jemas, doing the writer, and a couple artists. I'm not sure how to pronounce their names, but so I'm not going to try. But I read the I read the description, and I have no idea what this comic is about. It talks all about Bill Jemas and the other creators involved here, and how it's printed on high gloss covers and high quality stock, prestige comic collectible, blah blah blah. Great gift for parents of teens, for teens of parents, and for every comic fan. And I'm going, okay, so what is this about? The image they got here, they have two women looks like they're arguing with each other. What? Why would I bother if I don't know what it's about? I guess the creative team is the draw. I don't know. Remember a few years ago, I think it was 2 Christmases ago, or about that time anyway. I got it at Christmas, but I got that. How do you pronounce this publisher? Taschen? Anyway, they came out with the 75 Years of DC Comics: The Art of Modern Myth Making that weighed 16 pounds. Well, my wife got that for me for Christmas. And it's huge. It's heavy. So now we're getting close to 2 years after that came out-ish. And what they've done is broken that up into the eras. And so the first one they're re-releasing material, but they're doing it in smaller chunks. And the first one is the Golden Age of DC Comics, and you got that classic Batman cover where you got he's this huge image in the background. In the foreground is this castle, and it's all foggy and stuff. And I should know what that is from, but I don't remember. Anyway, so they're doing that, and they're going to re-release all of this material in smaller chunks if you are interested in only certain eras. Never fails, but there's usually at least one t-shirt in here in the previous catalog that I really, really want to get. And this this month's previews is no different. It says here, this is in Graffiti Designs, but Halloween lanterns is the tagline there. But what I really want is the classic Alan Scott Green Lantern t-shirt. So it's a red t-shirt with the classic Lantern logo on it, and I love Alan Scott and the classic Green Lantern, so I'll have to pick that up at some point. Of course, nowadays, with the classic JSA characters no longer around, essentially, we get the Earth 2 versions, which are all fun and great, but I really miss Alan Scott in his old uniform. So here pretty soon, nobody will know what that is or what that looks like. So I think in a previous previews episode, I talked about the Battlestar Galactica Colonial Warrior helmet that you could buy. Well, now they have the Viper Mark II assembled model, which looks really cool. So, a little backstory. When I was in junior high, I took an art class, and one of the things that I used to do all the time, even before the art class, but in the art class I did this quite a bit, and the teacher was allowed it essentially because I kept redrawing Vipers all the time. And what I would do is I would draw the profile of a Viper, and I actually even made, haven't thought about this in a long time, I actually even made my own model of a Viper out of paper towel tubes and toilet paper tubes and cardboard for the wings, and because they didn't have models at that time for Battlestar Galactica stuff, and then two, when they did come out with it, I didn't have enough money to buy that kind of stuff. I could barely buy comics. Anyway, I used to have a picture of that, and man, if I wish I had that picture, I'd post it and show you. But anyway, seeing this Viper model just brings that all back, and I'd really kind of like to have this in my little shipyard collection. On top of my desk here, on a shelf, I have a bunch of mostly Star Trek stuff. A lot of the Enterprises, the D, the A, the original Enterprise. I have a DS9 thing from Hallmark that my wife got me, and I got a couple Serenities. One is an ornament, and then one is the model that you can get from QMX. So it'd be nice to have that Viper on there. But although it's probably much bigger than the rest of these ships in my little shipyard, so I'd have to find a new place to put that. But it'd be a nice thing to add to my collection. And finally, some Doctor Who stuff that tickled my fancy. I showed these to my wife, and she just kind of smiled a little bit and rolled her eyes, I think. But I got a kick out of them. The first one is the Doctor Who TARDIS table lamp. It's just cute. And then you get the TARDIS string lights, which that would be totally awesome. And to help the kids sleep at night, you get the TARDIS nightlight. That's just cool. And then finally, the TARDIS and Dalek salt and pepper shaker set. Who wouldn't want that on their table? Come on. Okay, that is it for my look at the August previews for things shipping mostly in October and beyond. Let me know what you plan on ordering from previews. I'd love to hear from you. You can get all my contact information at longboxreview.wordpress.com. Thanks for listening.